Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to Upkick MMA, episode number 191. I am Brendan, almost at 200 episodes. Holy crap. It's so many of them. All right, we're going to talk about UFC Fight Night, Marina Rodriguez versus Amanda Lemos. We're going to talk about that main event. We're going to talk about Neil Magny, Daniel Rodriguez, Shayilan, Nuerdanbeke versus Darrick, and we're going to cover the rest of the main card here. If you're looking for the prelims, it's on the next one. And let me know in the comments down below you want me to cover the Cage Warriors. I am debating whether or not I'm going to make a video on the Cage Warriors that just happened on Friday. So before we get started, real quick, I'd appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel so you know when the next video is coming out. If you like MMA, you like podcasts about MMA, you like hearing fight breakdowns, I do almost all of the UFC fights. I break down every single one of them, 2 or 3 videos every single week, and I cover other organizations, PFL, Bellator, all the good stuff. All right, let's get going. Also, if you're looking for a specific breakdown of a certain fight from this card, although there wasn't a lot of controversies, this timestamps are down below. Okay, let's talk about the main event here. Marina Rodriguez taking on Amanda Lemos. 2 ranked opponents, 2 top 10 opponents taking on each other in the strawweight division here. And it was a fight. So we'll break it down. So Amanda Lemos obviously getting the win here, getting the TKO victory in the 3rd round. We will talk about let's just get right into it. Whole lot of nothing. All right, we'll go down round by round here. So a whole lot of nothing for the first minute of this fight. There was a lot of feeling out, a lot of nothing going on. Look at the striking numbers from this first round: 11-9 in favor of Lemos. Lots of leg kicks from both women. Some hard straight punches from Lemos. Lemos fainting was making, so she was doing this thing. She took the center of the octagon and she was fainting quite a bit, and Marina was reacting big, right? She was making big reactions. We'll talk about that in the next fight too. Big reactions, and Marina was reacting so hard that, she couldn't re-engage and move in. And then she wasn't doing as much as Neil Magny did, right? She wasn't making big jumps, but she was reacting heavily and then constantly on the back foot and moving back. And she was walking around the outside of the cage, not quite to the edge of the fence, right? Just on the inside of that warning track, that last line. The hard kicks from Lemos were probably the most significant strikes in this first round, to be honest. She landed 3 of them. Rodriguez did land more. She landed 7. And she did throw more offense, I believe. Yeah, she threw 29 total shots or total strikes, and she only landed 9 of them. I've said this before, and I don't have to harp on this all the time, but accuracy does not mean you win the round, right? Just because you land the same amount of shots and you were more accurate doesn't mean anything, right? The one throwing more offense, even though she was on the back foot, was Rodriguez. I still would have given this round to Lemos because she did land more damage until the last 15 seconds. Lemos moves in, puts her against the cage, gets in a clinch, and then goes for a takedown, loses position, ends up on bottom almost immediately, and then Rodriguez ends up on top in the mount to finish the first round. So I gave Rodriguez that first round. In the second round, Lemos landed a huge right hand counter, but Marina still on the back foot, not looking to engage that much. This fight was a lot of posturing and waiting around. I mean, if you want to look at the first round being boring, which it was, look at the second round. Yeah, 8-4 in favor of Lemos, 16-15 as far as as far as total strikes attempted. That's not great, man. Not great. There was just nothing. Nothing. It's just there was a whole lot of nothing. Lemos did do something interesting. So eventually they get into the clinch, and then Lemos throws Marina down, and got the back almost immediately, and went for a rear naked choke. She was doing a neck crank, then she got under the chin rather, got to the neck, didn't get the finish, but Lemos ended up spending the rest of the round on top. Not much damage. So you can see here 3 minutes of control time here in the second round. Almost no damage on the ground. I think she attempted 2 ground strikes. One ground strike. All right, so she just mainly held position. Not my favorite kind of thing. Not my favorite way. Not my favorite fight to watch. Really boring. But Lemos did get that round. So we were 19-19 going to the third. This was the main event, guys. Keep that in perspective, because when we break down the next fight, this was the main event. And I understand based off their rankings, maybe that's why they got it, because this has title shot implications. So that's why they got it. But who they bumped for the main event, I don't agree with. So Lemos landed a really big right hand and a beautiful stiff jab, huge right hand, hurting Rodriguez, and then she got the TKO finish with a flurry to finish up. So total strikes in this last round, 10-6 in favor of Lemos. So I know that the third round didn't last very long. It was only 54 seconds into the third round, but you know, there was more posturing going on. So this fight was boring as all get out. It mercifully came to an end before it went all 5 rounds, thank God, because I don't know if I could stand watching this that long. I mean, obviously I'm going to, because I do that for any fight. Doesn't matter. That's just pointless, what I just said. So I'm going to watch the fights regardless if they're boring or not. But it was not enjoyable to watch, regardless of how it ended. It's just Marina was pissed off about the stoppage. But if you go back and watch the footage, and they showed it plenty on the replays, she was not quite out on her feet, but she had her arms fully extended, not really defending well. And then she did bring them in to defend, but she wasn't doing anything. I mean, hell, she wasn't doing much before then for the last 2 rounds. It's not like she had a ton of output anyway. And now afterwards, she's going to bitch about it. That's ridiculous. I don't care. I mean, like I said, not the most enjoyable thing to watch. Now, something fun to talk about from this fight is the possibility of getting a title shot. So, Marina Rodriguez before this weekend was ranked number 3, and we had Lemos at number 7. So obviously, if they don't switch, maybe Lemos ends up at Andrade shouldn't be there. They might switch ranks because Rodriguez might drop below Jan, probably not Dern. Right? Did she just? Oh my goodness! Why can I not remember? No, she beat Dern and Jan, so she shouldn't drop below them. Hopefully, but you know how rankings go. She could drop down to number 10 for some stupid reason. So she's probably gonna bounce down, maybe below Andrade. So she might end up at 5, because obviously Lemos is going to move up, hopefully to at least number 4, probably number 3. And then everybody else is going to take a bump down here. And then, if we have Carla Esparza taking on Zhang Weili Zhang. So she's going to be defending the title for the first time against Zhang. And then we still have Rose Namajunas available to fight. So from what I know, I don't know if she's matched up with Andrade again. It's escaping me right now. But anyway, right, is she matched up? No, we don't have a matchup for her. So anyway, I would expect Lemos to either get a title shot after this, after beating Michelle Waterson and then beating the number 3 ranked, or possibly taking on Rose Namajunas, because she does have a loss to Andrade, and it doesn't make sense to pin her against that. So she said she wants to be the backup for the fight in a few weeks. So, sorry, guys. It was just a kind of a lackluster fight. There's not much to talk about when it comes to the actual technique and the fighting. It was just a lot of posturing and standing around. Does that mean she doesn't deserve a title shot? No, absolutely not. This division is kind of, it's worked its way out, and we have a clear delineation of who should be getting the title shot next. And, after Zhang. So it's going to be either, Rose Namajunas getting a win. I would put her against Andrade to, have that rematch. Oh, wait, no, that'd be the third one? Oh, crap. No, I don't even remember. Anyway, let's talk about a really good fight. How about that? Possibly get everybody's energy up. If you skipped to hear about this one, I totally understand. Okay, Neil Magny taking on Daniel Rodriguez. What an awesome fight, man. Holy crap, this fight was fun. Neil Magny getting the record most wins in the UFC, I believe. He passed GSP, I think. Or most wins in the welterweight division, sorry. To pass up GSP. And in the post-fight interview, in the media room, like he said, like, I know I'm not GSP. Obviously, we all know that. He knows that. He's aware of that. But it is cool to have that under your belt, taking the record for most wins in a division. That's no small feat, regardless of the talent pool that you're facing, because in the UFC, there's not a lot of gimme fights. And then over time, in order to keep your career, you understand like the people that you're going to end up fighting. I mean, this guy's fought the who's who of the 170 division pretty much for, oh man, Sergio Moraes. I mean, he was good back in the day too. I'm looking at his record and seeing the people that he beat. Like, he fought Tim Means back in 2014. Oh, some of those guys in this stretch maybe wasn't the biggest one. Then he had the loss to Maya. And he came back, and Eric Silva. Was that before or after he got off the juice? And that unfortunate loss to Larkin before Larkin left. He's got the win over Hendricks. Yeah, he's it's as far as I'm concerned, Neil Magny beats people who maybe aren't in their prime. Like, look at his losses. They're to Rafael dos Anjos, Lorenz Larkin, Santiago Ponzinibbio, Michael Chiesa, and Shavkat Rachmanov, who's, a huge, crazy up-and-comer, undefeated guy. So he's not losing to people, and Damian Maia back in the day. He's not losing to people, especially recently in his career, who are, random nobodies or anything like that. He's fighting people who are either ranked or right outside the rankings, that kind of stuff. And in order to keep that kind of career going, he is clearly a lifetime top 15 welterweight in my division, right? Or in my opinion, sorry. He's a guy who has been in the division. You can call him a gatekeeper because that's kind of the role he plays. Like, if you can beat Neil Magny, you're probably ready for the big time. But he also beats people who are ready for the big time, right? So he's clearly, when I say top 15, I don't mean of all time. Like, he's one of the best welterweights. I just mean like he's a consistent top 15 contender in the UFC. And he's just a force that just doesn't go away. He's like a welterweight stalwart, man. He belongs there. All right, enough gushing over Neil Magny, who I do like. Let's talk about this fight. This should have been the main event, in my opinion. I understand that the rankings in the welterweight division. Let's see. Neil Magny was 13 and Rodriguez was 14, right? So compared to the main event being 3-7, as far as their ranking goes, I understand that based off ranking, that's why they were the main event. But part of being a main event, especially in a fight night card, means you're going to have 5 rounds. And that's what this should have been. This should have been a 5-round fight. And I know it didn't go the distance, but regardless, this should not have been 3 rounds. This is not a 3-round caliber fight on a fight night card. This was a main event for fight night, or, if this was a 3-rounder on a pay-per-view, totally understand. If this was the featured prelim on a pay-per-view, understand. This fits in right. It fits right in there. I totally understand that. But on a fight night at UFC, like in a Vegas fight card at the Apex, come on, man. Like, this should have been the main event. Neil was using kicks up the middle really early. Yeah, he was using low kicks and kicks up the middle to manage distance. D-Rod landed some good left hands and some low kicks himself. D-Rod probably did more damage early, but then Neil did manage to bust up D-Rod's nose with the jab. Magny grabbed an overhook and held on to D-Rod in tight. He worked his way to the back and ended up getting. He had the body lock from the back and got a takedown. He threw him down. He actually got a lift, so a high altitude takedown. D-Rod got up, and then he took him right back down, and he kept control of the back, landing pretty much constant damage. And then right at the end of the round, D-Rod did land a couple good shots when they stood back up, but Magny did a decent job with the control and enough to outweigh the damage from the few big shots that D-Rod did land. So if you want to look at total strikes, it's not going to tell the whole story because Neil Magny did land more total strikes, 22-20. But some of the more impactful ones were from Rodriguez. That being said, Magny did have a high amplitude takedown. He lifted him off the ground and slammed him down. Now, his ones in the later round were better, but this was a good takedown as well, and that counts for damage, not just control, because he's doing damage by slamming him into the ground. So that's why I gave this first round to Magny. Let's see how this. We'll go to the judges' scorecards afterwards and see how they were scoring it, because Magny ends up getting the finish, so it didn't matter. Second round, Magny landed a head kick early. He's not throwing big swinging shots like D-Rod was, but he was landing enough constant damage. And then later in the round, D-Rod just started landing left hands to the body. He landed them up top. He was doing a great job, finding his openings, landing a big shot when he need to. And then Magny rushed in, landed like a three-piece combo at one point, and got in the clinch, landed a little bit on the separation. But Magny was just backing up too much in this round. He wasn't landing enough in return. He wasn't avoiding some of the shots like he did in the first round. He was backing up to the cage too fast, and he had those big reactions. So every time D-Rod would do anything, even if it was a real shot, Magny was backing way out. He was completely disengaging, wasn't staying in range to land anything back. He was just avoiding the shot, and D-Rod kept moving forward. So that forced Magny to the cage. He had nowhere else to go. And because of that, D-Rod was able to get him in range, even though, Magny had a reach advantage. He was able to stay in his range and land some damage with Magny against the fence. Now, in the first round, Magny was escaping pretty fast and maybe taking one shot. Well, now D-Rod was landing two or three when he got him against the cage. So there just wasn't enough output from Magny in this round. You can see in the strikes, 35-27. It didn't look great for Magny, honestly, going into the third round. And part of the thing is, like, there wasn't enough clinch work in this because Magny does a really good job in the clinch, and then he can forward pressure. So the way he did it in that first round is when D-Rod did press him. So I know, like, I kind of understand what his game plan was. What he was thinking is by backing up, he's going to force D-Rod in. And then when D-Rod throws something, he's going to reach over. He's going to overhook that arm and hold on to him and keep him in the clinch and keep him in tight, preventing him from doing any big damage with big swinging shots and striking at range, and then either work his way to a takedown or stay in the clinch. And the takedowns seem to be the key to victory for him. We saw that. We'll see that in the third. So that's not how the third round started, though. D-Rod landed a really hard left hand that hurt Magny early. Magny forced to pull guard, so he was hurt. He doesn't like fighting off his back. Magny recovers, gets back up, puts D-Rod on defense, on defense against defense, and I wrote that down, so stupid. And against the cage, and he was landing gritty damage. He actually ends up mounting him. So he tied up his legs, right? So D-Rod sits down with his back to the cage, and then using Magny used his legs to kind of scissor and hold D-Rod's legs together, so they're actually up off the ground and then tied up, and he can't do anything with them. D-Rod did work his way back up, but then Magny got the body lock again from the back and slammed him back down. Magny he went too high on him and was kind of slipping off, and then adjusted position. And when they got up, he immediately looked for a choke, yanked him back down, with the collar tie, yanks him back down, and then locks up a Darce, and then gets the fucking finish. Dude, what a beautiful choke. Beautiful finish by Magny. A way to kind of put D-Rod in his place and kind of where he belongs. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I think D-Rod does have talent, but obviously I don't believe he won that last fight, and he does have weaknesses in his game as he's stepping up in caliber of opposition. And I think he had an opportunity here to beat Magny. There was an opening for him to beat Magny. He just didn't execute properly. I think he did a good job when he had opportunities, and had he continued on similar to how he did in round two and was able to kind of keep that distance when he needed to instead of engaging in the clinch and then screwing. I think following Magny to the ground was a huge mistake. I think he should have made him stand back up and keep striking with him. I know hindsight's 2020, and maybe he would have got he thought he was going to get the finish on the ground, but knowing Magny and knowing his cardio and his ability to recover, I just think he kind of just made just a tactical error, and it cost him the fight. Great win for Magny. As far as rankings go, I mean, this doesn't really change too much, I guess. Magny's probably, I don't even know if he's going to move up above Chiesa. He might. I think Jorge Masvidal could probably get kicked down to like 14. I don't know. Maybe D-Rod gets kicked out of the rankings now, and then we bring in someone else. I don't know. As far as this division goes, we talked about it a few weeks ago with Bilal Muhammad getting the big win, and the whole kind of a little bit of a logjam we have at the top with a guy who's not willing to fight anybody in Colby Covington, and then obviously the rematch for the title. So that doesn't mean anything for this because Neil Magny's not getting a title shot from this win. He's not even in the title picture right now. He's probably going to need to put together like at least three wins in a row to get a title shot. He doesn't have a lot of promotional push behind him. He's not a huge fan favorite. He's more of like a diehard favorite. if you know him and you like watching him fight, you like his fighting style, that kind of thing. So, great win for him, though. Huge feather in his cap, getting the most wins in welterweight history. All right, kind of an unfortunate one here. Darrick Minner. I said we were going to look at the. I said we were going to look at the scorecards and see how they scored it. Yep, that's correct. Cool. Anyway, Darrick Minner taking on Shayilan Nuerdanbeke. It was unfortunate. So pretty much like one of the first strikes thrown by Minner, you can see he landed 5 of 5. Pretty good. But unfortunately, one of those that he did land was a body kick, and it looked like it was to the hip or just above the hip of Nuerdanbeke. And when he did it, it looked like it messed up his knee, his left knee. So he threw a left kick, hurt his left knee, and then immediately throws the left leg again, throws a kick, and then it comes back and is hurt, and then he kind of goes down. Shayilan gets the win here. Not much to break down here. They made it. They said something on the broadcast immediately, but then they kind of didn't talk about it again because they realized they were wrong. It's okay. I don't think they did it on purpose, and I don't think they were being hyperbolic or silly or anything. They were just saying, you can't take this away from Nuerdanbeke because he did what he's supposed to do, meaning that he blocked the kick or checked the kick. He didn't. The kick just went a little bit low or was oddly placed, and Minner's knee just gave out. Not much to really break down here, guys. Like, this is unfortunate. I hate seeing wins like this, and no matter who it is. I hate seeing fights end like this when the injury is not caused by the injury isn't caused by a technique from the person who won the fight. Do you know what I mean? It's if it, or like even it's better. Not like I'm never a fan of a guy getting hurt, but later in the fight, if the guy's clearly winning and the other guy does something and injures himself, that's fine. It happens, and he was already winning, so it's not that big of a deal. But in a fight like this, where it's so fast and it's almost immediately the guy hurts himself, it just sucks because it doesn't really tell us anything about either guy, to be honest with you. I mean, if it becomes a pattern for the guy who got hurt that his body can't hold up, then that's what we learn. But really, as far as fighting, you don't learn much. Okay, Tagir Ulanbekov versus Nate Maness. This fight ended real fast. Fight was like pretty close on the feet. Maness was switching stances, and he was using hooks to catch Tagir as he was coming in. But Tagir caught a kick, got him down, and then he got him down. And then through the transition, when they're getting back up, Maness left his neck out a little bit, and Tagir locked in a guillotine and got the super high elbow standing guillotine to get the tap and the finish. Good win. Again, this was a case where a guy did show good technique, and what we can tell from him is he's got good grappling, obviously. A guy from probably Dagestan with good grappling. Stop me if you've heard this before. And then he gets the win through his own technique, but it's really fast, so we don't get to learn too much about either guy, right? So this can happen too, where a fight can end because of a technique in a proper way, in a definitive way, but we really don't get to learn much. All we learned is that he does have he's crafty. I mean, we did learn. Like I said, I don't want to diminish this. The guy, good grappling, and he locking up a high elbow guillotine, a standing high elbow guillotine. That's impressive. It doesn't happen all the time, and locking that in the way he did, as fast as he did in transition, is impressive. So his grappling is, not I don't want to go say his grappling's next level. Like he wasn't dominating the guy on the ground for the whole time. It's just, it's something to watch out for. The guy is very good. How many fights does he have in the UFC? I don't feel like I think I've only seen him a couple times. His last fight was a loss to Tim Elliott. He's got good wins. Bruno Silva and Alan Nascimento. He's got good wins. And the loss to Tim Elliott. Oh, he had that loss to Tim Elliott where Tim Elliott was being scrappy and fighting dirty and doing nasty shit. I remember that one. Okie dokes. All right, the first fight on this card. Grant Dawson taking on Marco Madsen. Marco Madsen is the former Olympian. His nickname is the Olympian, and Dawson getting the win. So he was undefeated coming into this fight. He was undefeated in the UFC. I've had my I so this fight right here against Clay Guida. I obviously this is when I had the podcast, so I did break this down, and I do remember. I think I scored this for Guida because I felt like Madsen really wasn't doing damage in this. And it was a split decision. But anyway, he has a ton of hype behind him. Obviously, he's a former Olympian, so there's a lot of hype. He's not the youngest guy, so he's got kind of a shorter time span to kind of get to the title. But that's clearly his goal and what he wanted. And obviously, coming from Greco-Roman wrestling, he has a decent base, if not one of the best bases for MMA. So what was interesting about this is Grant Dawson, who's undefeated in the UFC, said he was like, I'm going to take him down. I'm going to kick his legs and take him down. Mark actually landed a right hand that staggered Dawson almost immediately in this fight. So Grant went in on takedowns. Grant got the takedown, took the back, put in the body triangle. Mark did some damage early, obviously, with that shot, but then Grant spent the whole time on his back, landing shots and trying for a rear naked choke. I gave it to Grant, to be honest with you. Let's see if the judges did here. I'm curious because I have not looked at this. They did. They gave him that first round. That's a good decision. I think he did win that first round. He if you look at the control time he had 4 minutes and 22 minutes of control time, and most of that was on the back of Madsen, attempting. You could say they were submission attempts. I think they're not submission attempts. He's going for submissions, and he was landing strikes on the ground. Obviously, they don't count as significant. You look at total significant strikes in here, 5-1, not a whole lot. But if you look at the total strikes he did throw, 27 of them he landed while he was on the ground on his back. And some of them were, decent shots that were turning Madsen's face red. So they were doing something. Grant landed a calf kick early on in the second round, then dove in on a leg. Madsen almost was running away from the grappling. And then Grant just kept working and working to get him back down to the ground. And then on the ground in the second round, he was down there for 4 minutes and 22 seconds again. And then he spent the whole round on top in half guard, going to mount half guard, landing damage when he got openings. I said it could have been a 10-8 round, to be honest with you. I don't know if they saw it that way. I don't think they did. He wasn't unloading on him. He wasn't doing a ton of damage, but Madsen really didn't land anything that round. The significant strikes were 6-4. And then if you look at total strikes, it says that Madsen landed more total strikes, but when you're from the bottom, it's unlikely that those were not impossible, but they were unlikely that they're more impactful. So maybe not a 10-8. I did because I feel like Madsen didn't do anything. And then here in this third round, Mark's an Olympic wrestler who got dominated in wrestling, and then Grant started to really hurt him with the calf kicks in this round, where Madsen dropped down once from him, and then he continued with the calf kicks. He landed 9 of them in this round, and then he dropped them again with one where Madsen immediately went to his guard and went to his back because he didn't want to stand back up. Then Grant goes in. He goes in to his guard and you're like, oh, why would you do that? Make him stand back up and kick his calves again. But he gets right into mount and then gets the rear naked choke finish. He transitions to the back. What a performance by him. Total significant strikes in this round were 26-6. Madsen did nothing. I think Grant Dawson is something else. This kid is great. He's undefeated in the UFC. He has a draw with Ricky Glenn. I think it's time for a step up in competition here. He does have a win over Julian Erosa back in 2019. He's fighting quite a bit. Jared Gordon's a good win. The kid needs to fight. The kid needs to step up in competition. He needs to fight somebody. Maybe not ranked, but he's the real deal. I mean, he did get caught by a wrestler. He did get caught with a punch by a wrestler, so not exactly the most glowing endorsement for your striking ability and striking defense, but not the end of the world. Anyway, all right, that is the main card, guys. If you like this stuff, if you made it this far, please subscribe so you see when the next videos are coming out. If you're looking for some breakdowns from some past events, I've got them all up. You're more than welcome to go back there. If you're looking for the prelims, it's going to be in the next video. So go ahead and hop over there to watch them. If you don't, and this is the only video you watch, I appreciate it. I really do. Thank you for spending your time here. It means a lot to me. I hope you guys have an amazing week, and I love y'all.